Hi, friends. In today's episode, we're chatting with Jeffrey Dakin, who's made bold moves and confident choices to build something incredible. And a little secret, he was on Shark Tank. We'll dive into his journey, the key lessons learned, and some surprising insights along the way. So, a little bit about our incredible guest. Jeffrey is an inventor, entrepreneur, and master builder of businesses and big ideas. From building multi-million-dollar projects to diving into the Shark Tank, Jeffrey is a true innovator and entrepreneur. He took the Scrubby, his game changing innovation, to Shark Tank, season 12, episode 22. But that's just one piece of his story. With multiple patents across various industries and 20 years as a national commercial contractor, he's mastered the art of building, whether it's teams, businesses, or big ideas. Get ready for an inside look at grit, strategy, and bold moves that have fueled his journey. So, Jeffrey, thank you so much for being here on Bold Moves, Confident Choices.
It's my pleasure. That was a great introduction. I don't
Thank
really
you.
like to toot my own horn, but yeah, it's all sounds pretty accurate. And I think that this is a perfect podcast to get on and talk about some bold moves and confident choices that we make throughout our business journey and life journey. It's all kind of collaborating together and trying to do amazing things.
Well, I'm excited, Jeffrey, because I do know you have so much to share with us. But before we jump into some of those big questions, tell us just a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, I thought I've always had too many $1 million ideas not to have $1 million from one of them, right? And so I've always been an inventor and thinking how we can improve things. And my dad was the same way. He's a dentist, a practicing dentist here in Kansas. And he said, you could come be a dentist too and take over practice. But school wasn't my forte, I guess. And I've always been super creative. And when I went to college, it was for computer graphic design. And then I ended up moving to Florida to give dolphin tours at age 21. I had a buddy that lived in Destin, Florida, and asked if I wanted to come out there and work for the summer. So at 21, I gave dolphin tours and rented jet skis on the beach. And then from there, just kind of taking life for what it is and seizing the day and seizing the opportunities. And then I had another buddy that had a restoration company that was operating in Gulfport, Mississippi, which is close to Destin, and said, Jeff, come up here and help me run some crews for this project that we're working on. So that's when I first started kind of getting into contracting, was during Hurricane Katrina. And I remember asking my buddy, it's like, man, your dad, your family owns this business that's taken on this huge project. They brought 100 temp workers in from Mobile, Alabama down to Gulfport. And it was kind of just like my friend group created this $5 million project to build and rebuild. And so I knew that there was an opportunity and that there was means to creating a lot of capital with the amount of work that you do. Just got to be strategic about where you put your time and efforts. And so from there, that I remember asking him, I said, how much is your dad charging for this project? He said, $5 million. And I was like, wow. And we got it done in a month. And so I was like, this guy, they're making $5 million a month. Maybe I should try to be a GC and contractor. And then so basically from there, I bought a bunch of my own tools and started. I was a trim carpenter at first, and then I got into drywall and roofing and paint and building everything. And then I started getting more projects than I could physically handle myself. So then I started hiring crews of people to do things. And then that turned it into, we started building hotels and senior living homes and apartment complexes across the nation. So I had several projects going on at the same time throughout the country. And I was flying back and forth and running 100-man crews to build these projects. And then so it was an awesome learning experience. You can learning how to deal with other people and customer relations and invoicing and the whole kind of general contract and business. And then 2020 hit. Let me back up a little bit. So during this process, I remember having this conversation with the guy one time. I told him about this idea that I had. This, like, we were at a bar and I said something about a lighter that didn't need a flame, right? And it's like, maybe if it was like an electric oil coil system that could be. And then 2 years later, the electric lighter came out. And then so I
Right.
was like, man, I'm tired of seeing all these ideas that I have end up in Walmart 2 years later. I had some capital. And so I started looking into the patent process. And so my first patent was actually called the hitch ball weight meter, or the AccuTel. It was a receiver hitch that connected to the back of your truck, and it told your tongue weight and your toe weight of a trailer being pulled. And so we started making some moves on that. We contacted a mechanical engineering company and they started built some machines for testing. And then we realized the next phase, just for the electrical components, was going to be a few $100,000. And then so talking to them, and then there's millions of dollars in testing for the KDOT, Department of Transportation and everything. And so for the first run, this wasn't, unless we're willing to invest millions of dollars, which some people do on their first products, which, is admirable. But when we were around mechanical engineers, they said, do you have another product that's maybe a lower cost idea that we could possibly, help you out with? And at that time, we did a patent search on what I was calling the Scrubby. It was an attachment that connected to your kitchen sink sprayers and had the sponge on the end of it. And they said, we love this idea. We can actually help you engineer and create 3D renderings of a product that could be patentable and to specs of all the sprayers on the market. So we had these genius engineers help us from the very beginning. Then we created 3D renderings to 3D printed prototypes, and in which we did some testing. And then we found after 5 or 6 different 3D printed prototypes, we ended up having a product that we thought worked really well. And then we went to manufacturing. And so from manufacturing, we ordered 1,000 units and just being resourceful. Like as a GC, if I needed a drywall guy in Tucson, Arizona, I would just blow up Google and then have 10 people show up and then kind of give them an interview of what I think their skills and abilities are and then find the best ones. And then so that's kind of what I did for manufacturing. We found a company that we thought that was going to help us out. We ordered 1,000 units and we started with the branding. And then I had my other buddy, Matt. He was on Shark Tank. So he was involved and brought his other buddy, Tyler, in because Tyler's family had some capital that they're willing to invest into the product. And I said, yeah, bring him in. Let's build this. We started doing the branding and our website and all of our logos and everything and started building a brand around it. Then we went to a trade show and then sold out. Well, we sold 300 or so. That's all that could fit in Matt's vehicle at the time. And so we sold out a product. And then after that, I was still a general contractor, still fun. The Scrubby was definitely a side project that we were just trying to play with and see what we can do and see if it got any traction. So we went to a trade show, sold out. And then for the next year, we didn't go back to another trade show. So a year later, we went back to the same trade show that we were at and then sold out again. And then people were saying, you guys are great. We bought your product last year and we're still using the same sponges and we love you guys. You guys should be on Shark Tank. And it's like, well, yeah, that would be great if we were on Shark Tank. And then the next day after our second trade show, we got asked to be on Shark Tank.
Wow. So
And
how did that happen though? Real fast, Jeff. How did you submit your information to Shark Tank or how did you get the call?
so Matt got a call. I'm not sure how they got his number, but we did have a marketing lady that reached out to a bunch of different companies and just try to help us maybe kind of license it and see what we could do with it. And so I'm finding out that she is actually the original one that submitted an application for us. And then we got a call. So it's out of the blue. I didn't put in any fill out the information for Shark Tank. And so it's kind of a big surprise for us.
Super
And
cool.
I know. And so we got asked, and I said, yes, of course, let's do it. And then that's right when COVID hit. It was in February of 2020, as with the last trade show, and when we got asked. And then COVID hit the next month. And so all my contracting projects slowed down to halt because they know traveling purposes and different things. But that's also when we had to do all of our due diligence and for the Shark Tank and all the patent process and making sure that all your trademarks are solid and patents are solid and through their attorneys to make sure you're legit brand and background checks. You know all about that,
Oh,
right?
yeah. How long did that take for you all?
6 months.
Well,
S-
okay.
Six
Wow.
months from when we found out to when we went to Las Vegas. And so we were in quarantine for 10 days at the Venetian. It
Wow.
was awesome experience, right? You could say, oh, well, we were locked up in a hotel room, but I was enjoying every bit of it. Fresh air would have been nice, of course, but we had 3 5-star meals a day and they took care of us. But we knew our sales, we only sold less than 1,000 because that's all we had. And we knew what our sales were and we were confident what we could get our price down to. And so that we went in there full of confidence.
Hold on. So, Jeffrey, who were your sharks? Can you share who your sharks were?
Sure. Yeah. Mark was there. And then there was Kevin and Daniel and Lori. I think that
And
was it.
Daniel
And
was the
and
guest
Robert.
shark, right?
Yeah, Daniel with the kind bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Robert. We were in there for over an hour. They aired about 8 minutes of it. we're a little controversial, I guess you could say, on our episode.
Why?
Well, Lori compared us to another company, or a logo. She compared our logo to another one of her companies that she invested into. And I don't think that sat right with her, obviously. But we ended up explaining to her that we actually reached out to that company 3 months earlier before we were asked to be on Shark Tank to see if they wanted to do a licensing deal. It's like, hey, maybe you guys could put your sponges on the end of our product. We sent them a product and they said, this is actually good job for doing what you've done, but we're working on things internally. And so we actually thought that other company helped us get on Shark Tank. Like, oh, these guys
Oh,
just want to check and make sure our patents are solid and trademarks are solid, and maybe we can make a deal with Lori. And so they're a little blindsided, I guess you could say, about when we went in there and they're saying that we were controversial. Or, but I knew that the other company had our product, and I knew that going into doing all the due diligence and background checks that our patents were solid and our trademarks were solid. And so in business, you're going to try to get pushed around. And if you're the little guy, you're going to be careful of the big guy's foot. They're going to try
sure.
to squash you or whatever. We end up telling Lori inside the tank that didn't air that we reached out to him and it could have been something. And hopefully that she could reach out to him and we could still make a deal. And so this whole time, we're still thinking that something could happen. And then they aired, and then they kind of how they aired it was they wanted drama, right?
They did.
They
I
wanted
watched
people.
it. They wanted to
Yeah,
get fired. They got fiery. And that's the
that's
one thing
perfectly
about
fine.
Shark Tank. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's TV.
they were actually all really nice to us in real life. You know, we were in there for over an hour. They edited some of the parts in and out for the drama purposes, but all in all, I think that it went as well as it could. I mean, everything happens for a reason. We didn't make a deal on the tank, but afterwards we were reached out to and blown up by every company looking for a licensing deal, or we were offered several buyout options. We're trending on Reddit and saying your logo doesn't look anything like this other guy's. Your logo is actually way better than these other guys, and you guys should just work together. And being compared to $100 million company isn't necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right.
It kind of
Right.
gets some brand awareness, but also being on Shark Tank puts you in front of millions of people right away. And so that's what we're looking for. We're not here to take anybody's idea. I came up with the idea after dinner one night. My wife was cooking and I did the dishes and I was taking this old spray gun and I was spraying the dishes with it. And then I end up, while the water's coming out and I'm scraping the plate with the sprayer to get the last bit of food off. And I thought if I put a sponge on the end of it, it would be more effective and more efficient. And that's where the aha moment, I guess, came from. But immediately I thought, the Scrubby, it's called the Scrubby. And then I looked it up and the trademark was available and the .com was available. So bought it, purchased it, and just started moving forward with the Scrubby. And I
The
never was called
Scrubby was
the
born.
Scrubby is born. Yeah, our patent attorney said you should call it like the Scrub Blaster or something crazy. Or and I was like, it's called the Scrubby. It's
Scrubby.
easy, it's nice, it makes sense. It's just this Scrubby. And now if you look up the Scrubby, ours pops up, but a lot of other variations of the word with a K or with a Y,
Right.
or it is what it is. And so,
So it still exists.
oh
The
yeah,
business
we're
still exists,
oh
right?
yeah, we're still definitely operating the Scrubby. We're in interesting positions right now. So
Fantastic.
we're in front of a bunch of different retailers right now, and we're also in the negotiations with a licensing deal right now as well. So we could, right, and thank you. So we could end
Fantastic.
up releasing the business to this other company. It's a big company that with royalties that would come in. And I think that sounds great. If it was my only company, my only idea, then I wouldn't even consider it. But I do have 7 other products and businesses that we actually started since being on Shark Tank as an
Oh my
entrepreneur and as a
oh my
business owner
goodness.
and as a contractor and building teams. It's like I've still got ideas, right? And
You
so
are
it's
an
like,
inventor.
I am. I think I'm an inventor, yes. And so I have these ideas, and then I find people, well, becomes friends, and then we're like, well, what can you do? What can you do? It's like, oh, actually, I got an idea that's in this market. It's like maybe we can work together. What do you think about this? And then so now I've created business partnerships and relationships with other Shark Tank entrepreneurs that were on the show for other products, going to these Shark Tank reunions every year, and then now we have several times a year we have meetups in different states. And we were just in Tampa a couple weeks ago for the Shark Tank reunion. Were you there?
That's awesome. No, I've never joined a reunion. And I need to get more involved back into the community because I sold my shares quite a while ago. And once an
There-
entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur,
yeah,
right?
there's
Like
people
that's
there
the
that don't.
spirit.
One of my partners, he sold his company before I met him. But he made a deal with Kevin O'Leary, and then they end up selling the company, but he still goes. And then that's when I met him. And then he had some open time to help out with our business. And so
It's a
it's
great
a
community.
great community. Network
Yeah.
is net worth, right? And as a contractor, I used to hang out with other guys that were contractors, like roofers or concrete guys or drywallers or whatever. And it's just like, if we know the people that can do it, then we might end up taking on extra projects. It's like, I know 100 roofers. So if I find someone's like, hey, can you do roofs? And I'm a contractor, it's like, I can definitely do roofs. We got 100 guys I can call right now to get up on your roof and give you multiple estimates. And so that's how I was kind of figuring how I could be successful in the product development is by utilizing some of my contracting abilities that I've built over the years to build teams of people. And then now we have several businesses and several products that I bring other people in.
Better together is what I keep
Better
hearing from
together.
you. Like bring in your tribe, bring in the people where their strengths are and let them shine.
Right.
S-
Absolutely.
So, Jeffrey,
Absolutely.
I've got to jump into this big question
Sure.
because we could talk about Shark Tank entrepreneurship all day. But what would you say was the bold move or confident choice that took things to the next level for you?
Well, in business, I think it was whenever I said, I'm just not going to say no. When somebody asked
Mm.
me if I can do this project for them, right? Like as a trim carpenter, when I started out, it's like, can you do drywall? It's like, yes. I remember the first time I ever did a concrete job, this old lady or this older lady, I shouldn't say old lady, but she said, oh, can you do my concrete patio after I'm doing some siding for her? And I said, yes, ma'am, I can do some concrete. And then I just Googled concrete contractors and then had a guy meet me out there. And then he gave me a bid. I walked around to the front, added 20% to it. And I was like, ma'am, this is your cost. And she's like, oh, okay, thank you. Here, let's do it. And so, well, now I officially do concrete. I remember that drive I had. I was like, man, I can't say no to these people because they're asking me, can you do this? Can you do this? It's like, no, ma'am, but I can give you the guy's number. And then I was losing money. And so instead of I was able to utilize my connections and abilities to continue to grow. And then from there, we started building hotels and apartments and traveling around New York and Tucson and San Diego and Texas and North Dakota and all Chicago and New York and all over.
You
So
know, Jeff, I mean, going back to just being that entrepreneurial mindset that you have, an inventor, this bold move that you acknowledge of where it's like the aha of never say no, just has you keep inventing and reinventing and innovating yourself over and over and over again. So you truly are an inventor at heart. It's
thank you.
really awesome to listen to this because I hear it, I see it from you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That's my whole life. Before we started this podcast, I showed you a little piece of my ranch, and I've always wanted horses and I've always wanted chickens. And now I got horses and chickens and a beautiful wife and two beautiful sons. And so, we're create the best way to predict the future is to create it, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't come up with that quote. I can't remember exactly who did, but that was a good one because it's like, what do we want to do? It's like, I'm not really sure what's happening later today, but I know I have meetings later today, and we're going to make the best of every potential outcome.
Yeah.
And if you have to write the email, you have to make the phone call. And if you don't work, nothing will, right? And so we got to put it all out there. And that's the fun part is just trying to do something and then seeing if it works.
So, Jeffrey, if everybody has great ideas, everybody's, especially after watching Shark Tank, people like to really get creative. If somebody has an idea and it's burning inside of them, what would you tell them?
I actually see this all the time. I have a consulting company that we help other inventors and product developers with their products. And I've seen some crazy ideas. And then the first thing I do, and I tell people to do, is Google it. This folding surfboard, for example. This guy contacted me and said, I got this idea for his folding surfboard. It's so great. I got all these drawings and everything set up. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. I'm going to look it up. And then there's 100 other folding surfboards. It's like, man, the market's already pretty saturated. And you got your cost of production and it's liability if you're going on a big wave and it snaps and then people die. So the first thing is Google it. Try to shut it down yourself, right? If you're looking it up and you're looking on Google of an attachment like the Scrubby, a sponge attachment that connects to your kitchen sink sprayer. There's nothing like it on the market. We own that market. We have 4 patents with a bunch of different claims to them. So We own the where the sponge and water meet for outdoor garden hoses, and we're adding more products to our collection as we speak. So I'd say try to find out if it already exists is the number one thing. And a lot of people don't really do that. They just think, I got a good idea. Jeff, what do you think about this? It's like, oh, well, let's look it up. Oh, well, here it is. Or, oh, that's not an idea. Maybe we could put a little bit of research into it. Then after the Google, you go to a patent search, and then you can go to your patent attorney, or you can go to the USPTO, which is United States Patent and Trademark Office, and search up trademarks, for example, or look up prior art, they call it, for patents, and seeing if something like that does exist. For the Scrubby, we had an attorney do our patent searches and send us back over 100 prior art, they call it, of different products that weren't like the Scrubby, but that could be something along the lines of a brush and a sprayer, but not the
Right.
same. So we knew that we weren't infringing on any of them. A lot of them were old. And another thing about patents is after 20 years, it becomes public domain. So like a zipper or Velcro. So if you have an idea that's been around for a long time, but you can put two different things together, then you can create something that could be patentable.
Fascinating. Okay, so everybody, you hear it. If you have an idea, do everything you can to try to shut it down first to make sure it doesn't exist. That is really great advice, Jeff. Okay, we've got to move on to this next question I have for you.
Sure.
It's a big one. Are you ready?
Always
So, Jeffrey, what would you tell your 18-year-old self today?
go for it. Just do
Oh,
it. Just do it. I grew up wakeboarding and snowboarding and riding motocross and going mudding in four-wheel drive trucks and kind of pushing limits and hitting throttles and kind of just you got to pin it to win it. That's a motto they say in motocross is you got to pin it to win it. And so if you're not trying, then you're not doing anything. And so the worst thing that you could do is not go for it, then have regrets. My last job was, I guess, in Hurricane Katrina, working for my buddy. And then before that was giving dolphin tours. And then since then, I've been an entrepreneur. I started my first lawn mowing company at like 16 years old with my buddy that actually had the restoration company I met with in Mississippi.
Jeff,
So,
it's in your blood. Entrepreneurship is in your blood.
right,
Love that. Go for it. So,
go for it.
Jeffrey, before we end here today, is there anything you want to leave the audience with today?
It's all in your mind. I think everything is all in your mind. So if you want it, you can do it. I'm not sure about how manifestation works and things, but if you see it and you understand it and you follow all the roadmap to success, then anything is possible. Because people have made millions of dollars. People are making billions of dollars, but what's their daily routines, right? They're not waking up at 9 a.m. or drinking every night, or no offense to anybody that does. I don't anymore because I realize that I still have a cocktail every now and then, but I can't say
Yeah.
that. It's all in your mind. It's if you want it, you can get it. You can persuade yourself not to do something easier than you can almost persuade yourself to do something. An email, how long does an email take? 5 minutes, maybe, right? Especially with AI and Chat GPT, it's like putting in some prompts. It's like, oh, well, actually, this sounds really good. And then how long does a phone call take? How long does a going to these networking events and showing up, being in the right place and being in the poorest person in the room is not a bad thing, right? It's
Yeah.
because that means you're
Right.
surrounding yourself with successful people. And I remember being in Tampa recently and going to dinner with some of these high profile people and they're talking about, I sold my company for 40 million and we did 100 million last year and all this other stuff. And I'm like,
Wow.
man, this is, and then they're arguing about who's paying for dinner. And I'm like, I'm in the right table. And they
You want
became
to
my friend.
surround yourself
Yeah.
with that,
And then,
right?
I'm now friends with these people and, you want to put yourself in the right rooms and
Yeah.
you got to have confidence. Confidence is key. There's a theory called the basket case theory. I'm not sure if you know about it. It's if you could put anybody on a pedestal, like Michael Jordan, for example, it's like, oh, he's so great and so good. But once you start to get to know him, and it's like, oh, he has a little bit of flaw here, and oh, maybe
Yeah.
that. And then it comes down to it, everybody's a human, everybody's a person, everyone has their own thoughts and ways, and no one is
No one's
untouchable.
perfect.
No one's perfect, and no one is untouchable. And we can be in those rooms with the people and then make the decisions and create business relationships with other people. So I'd say go for it. It's all in your mind. If you want it, it can happen. Confidence is key for
Ugh,
sure.
I love that, Jeffrey. And I have to tell you, the past three interviews I've had, everybody has stressed the power of the mind. So you just tie that all together again. Please, please take control of your mindset, everyone. It is powerful. It is the biggest muscle you have. It takes work, but you can do it. So,
Right.
Jeffrey, as we leave here today, where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Jeffrey M. Dakin, and Facebook. You can be my friend. You can follow me on Instagram or go to the scrubby.com and order a scrubby or TikTok shop and Amazon. Basically, all the proper places. You can Google my name as well and find a whole bunch of pretty interesting topics, I guess you could say as well. So,
And a bunch of Shark Tank clips.
bunch of Shark Tank clips. Yeah, yeah.
Jeffrey, thank you so much for being here
It's my
today.
pleasure.
You brought so much to the surface for us. Number one, it is so cool to see how you have that spirit inside to just keep inventing, but also to surround yourself with people while you do it, not to do it alone. And just go for it, get out of your head, and be confident. So,
Absolutely.
everyone, thank you so much for listening today. And as we leave here, as always, go be bold, be confident, and be you. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Bold Moves, Confident Choices. Remember, the boldest moves come from trusting ourselves and taking action. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share with someone who needs a little extra boost to boldness. Until next time, be bold, be confident, be you. Thanks.